Have you ever asked yourself the question, how do I do core work with osteoporosis? Well, in this video, I am going to show you 5 different ways that you can do core work safely with osteoporosis. Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we discuss all things related to bone health. I'm a 500-hour trained yoga teacher with training that's specific to yoga and osteoporosis. I actually did my training with Dr. Lauren Fishman, who is a leading researcher in the field of yoga and osteoporosis. I'm also BoneFit certified outside of the realm of yoga, and I'm a certified nutritional health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So let's talk about ways that you can strengthen your core and why doing core work is important with osteoporosis. So let's start with that last part. Why is core work important with osteoporosis? When we have a strong core, it provides more stability for our bodies in general. When you're more stable, you're less likely to fall and have a fracture. And also with that stability, you have more support for your spine. Your postural muscles are stronger. So it helps to reduce the risk of having a fracture because your posture is better, because you have better support for the spine, and because you're less likely to fall. So those are the reasons why it's important. And let's get into talking about safe core work for osteoporosis. When you think about core work, the first thing that comes to your mind may be sit-ups. I know that's what comes to my mind when I think about core work. Sit-ups, curls, crunches, any variation therein, even exercises in Pilates that cause a rounded spine. But when you have osteoporosis, it isn't safe to do any of those exercises because coming into a rounded shape with the spine could actually lead to having a compression fracture, which we definitely want to avoid. So it's important to find alternative ways to strengthen the core. We are going to do 5 exercises that strengthen the core that have nothing to do with any rounding of the spine. We are going to strengthen our abdominal muscles anyway. You don't need to be able to get down onto your knees to do these exercises. There's a portion where I'm going to get down onto the floor, and you could choose to lie down flat on your back at that point. We are going to do some planking today, and you don't have to get down onto the floor and plank with me. I'm going to show planks both at the wall and down on the floor. So pick the variation that works the best in your body. It's not necessary to get down onto the floor, and it's not necessary to get down onto your knees. This is intended to be accessible for everyone. So we're going to start out standing up. Go ahead and step your feet out wider than hip width apart. That might be closer together than I am, and it might be wider than my legs are now. This is about what's comfortable in your body. So find that positioning that's comfortable in your body. Go ahead and turn your right toes so that they're facing one end, and bring your arms out towards the sides. We're going to come into a modified side triangle pose from yoga. Go ahead and take your arms and torso over towards the right side, and you'll start to feel your core working to hold yourself up. So in a traditional side triangle pose, you would bring your hand down to your leg, and we're not doing that in this particular exercise. We're just coming over far enough to really start to feel our abdominal muscles working. Go ahead and take your gaze out over your left fingertips if that's comfortable for you in your body. Know that gaze is always optional. And go ahead and lift yourself back up to center. Turn your right toes towards the side of your mat. Left toes turn towards the other direction. Go ahead and bring your arms out to the sides. And this time we're going to shift our torso and arms over towards the left side. Again, coming over just far enough to really start to feel your core working. Abdominals are fired up. They're working to keep you steady and stable. And if it feels good in your body, you can take your gaze up towards your right fingertips. And if it doesn't, then keep your head where it does feel right. Bring your focus to your breath. Go ahead and lift yourself back up to center. And go ahead and step your feet together, maybe even giving your legs a little bit of a wiggle and a shake out. The next exercise that we're going to do is to come into tree pose. And it's totally okay to come over by a wall or to grab a chair. I'm going to grab a chair just to demonstrate that variation. So anytime you come into balance, your tummy muscles have to work to keep yourself steady and stable in the balance. So this helps to strengthen your tummy muscles, and it also helps to reduce your risk of having a fall. Balance is something that we should all be doing and practicing every single day. It's an important thing that I learned about in my bone fit training. Go ahead and press your left foot firmly into the floor and pick your right foot up, coming into either a low tree or a high tree, making sure that there's not any pressure on your standing leg knee. Find a spot in front of you to gaze at that's not moving. That will also help you to keep your balance. And then you have the option to take your arm out towards the side, to bring your hand at heart center, to reach it up towards the sky, to hold onto your chair or not, depending on what feels right in your body. And bring your focus to your breath. And go ahead and release. Give your legs a little bit of a wiggle and a shake out. Let's do the other side. Did you notice as soon as you came into balance that your tummy muscles had to start working? It's a beautiful thing. Go ahead and press your right foot firmly into the floor and lift your left foot into tree pose. Same options on this side. Low or high, just no pressure on your standing leg knee. Then go ahead and bring yourself into balance, knowing that it's always okay to hold on. Make this work in your body. Another benefit of coming into balance is that every time we come into balance, we put good stress in the standing leg hip. So when you do both sides, you've gotten both hips, but it's also a wonderful way to strengthen the hips. And hips can be a little bit tricky to get at with osteoporosis. Bring your focus to your breath. And go ahead and release. Really nice work. So something that you'll notice that we did in tree pose, so I'm not counting this as an extra exercise because we just did it as part of tree pose, is to reach your arms up over your head. This really simple movement, every time you reach your arms up over your head, if you notice and pay special attention to your core, you'll notice that your abdominal muscles start to work here. Every time you reach your arms up overhead, your abdominals, your core muscles work to keep yourself steady and stable. They engage as soon as you make the reach. That's something that you could do sitting down in a chair throughout the day. It's a wonderful way to strengthen your abdominal muscles. The next exercise that we're going to do is the plank. We're going to start at the wall with a wall plank. I'm just going to scoot this chair off to the side. Then I'm going to come over to the wall. So to do a wall plank, it's important to bring your hands so that they are about shoulder height. You want your fingertips about as high as your shoulders and your wrists slightly below. And then from here, step out just slightly. And you'll start to feel your core muscles, your abdominals working immediately. If you want to up the ante on this and go for a little bit harder work, then start to bend your elbows, making sure that they don't drop out towards the sides, but just keeping them in line with the rest of your body. So you could bend them just slightly, or you could bend them significantly. Every variation they're in is going to make your tummy muscles work. And bring your focus to your breath. And go ahead and straighten your arms out. It's also possible to come into a standing plank using your kitchen counter. It's also possible to do a side plank at the wall. So again, I have my hand so that it's just below the shoulder. Fingertips are about shoulder height. and I'm bringing myself out towards the side, and then I'm leaning in. So this puts good stress. My tummy muscles, your core, your abdominal muscles are all working, but you're also putting good stress through your wrist and through your arm and shoulder. Wrists are the third most common fracture with osteoporosis. So if you can do this and put this pressure on your wrist, it's a good thing. If not, forearm planking will work your core and still has value and merit, and there are other ways to strengthen your wrists. Go ahead and make your way back up to standing, and let's switch sides. Walking your feet out a little bit, leaning into the wall. And what we didn't do on the other side, but that you could do on both sides, is also to bend your elbow if you wanted to take that up a notch and work just a little bit harder. So all of those are good variations of things, working to strengthen your core, your abdominal muscles. And go ahead and make your way back up to standing. Really nice work. We are going to come down to the floor and do some planking on the floor. If that's not comfortable for you, that's totally okay. Join us again when we come into laying down on our backs, and you could do that laying down in bed even. So if it's comfortable to get down on the floor, please go ahead and join me. And if not, join me from laying down on your bed. To get down to the floor in an osteoporosis safe way, go ahead and bend both knees, stick your behind out, coming through the hip hinge, bringing both hands down to a chair, and then go ahead and bring one knee down and then the other knee down. And of course, you could definitely have a knee pad down here or a blanket underneath your knees if that makes this more accessible and comfortable. Being mindful of your spine, go ahead and come down onto both forearms, making sure that you don't come into a rounded shape, and then tuck under both sets of toes, coming into a forearm plank. So here in your forearm plank, you might be comfortable holding this and your abdominals might be working hard. It might also be more comfortable to find a little bit of movement. If that's the case, feel free to shift forward into your toes and back into your heels. Forward into toes, back into your heels. And then from here, go ahead and lower all the way down onto your belly. If you are coming down to the floor and it's not comfortable to come into a full forearm plank, it's always okay to do a forearm plank from your knees as well. We're going to go ahead and come onto our sides and come into a forearm side plank. So to do this, you have several options. You can keep your legs out long. It's preferable with osteoporosis to keep your hips stacked so one is right on top of the other. There's a version of forearm side plank where you use your front foot as a kickstand, and that does work your abdominals. It works your core. But if you're looking at also loading good stress through the hips for osteoporosis, it's better to keep your hips stacked, one right on top of the other. So for a modification from this, it's better to bend the knee that's underneath and to keep your hips in alignment with each other. So from here, go ahead and press that bottom leg into the floor and lift your hips up towards the sky. Maybe, just maybe, reaching your top arm up, feeling strong and steady. Bring your focus to your breath. And go ahead and lower down. I'm going to roll over onto the other side. I'm going to plank on the other side, and so you'll be able to see what it looks like with this bottom leg. I'm going to bend the knee that's underneath, keeping my hips stacked. And then from here, press that leg into the floor while you lift both hips up towards the sky and reach your top arm up. You have the option to keep your legs both in a long line if you don't need the modification. go ahead and lower down. I want to show just briefly, there's another modification if side plank is just really not accessible yet in your body. There's actually still a way that you can work on side plank. Go ahead and grab a block or a pillow, something for your head, and lie down with your head and then on your side. And then from here, just work on lifting your torso up off the ground, even if you can only hold that for a second or two. If you work on that second or two every day, it'll become a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and you'll gradually build strength and strengthen your core and work your way into the other variations of plank. From here, we're going to lie down on our backs. So I'm going to come down onto my side and then mindfully make my way onto my back. And there's one more exercise that we're going to do to strengthen our core, our abdominal muscles. So we are going to stay flat on the back. We're not going to come into any kind of a rounded shape. And I'm going to show a couple of variations of doing this exercise. The first one, I'm going to place a block between both knees and come into an upside down tabletop position. My arms are out towards the sides to help create stability. And the back of my head is pressing into the floor. That also helps to create stability for the spine. Go ahead and shift your legs forward and back. Did you notice your core working hard there? Go ahead and shift your legs forward and back. It's amazing how just such a small movement can make such a big difference. Go ahead and shift forward and back. Forward and back. Forward and back. Go ahead and bring your legs down to the floor. Place your feet flat on the floor and let your knees drop in towards each other, taking just a moment to let your belly soften. Take a full breath cycle here. Know that even if you can only do one of those, it's okay. Start doing one consistently, and then it will become 2, and eventually 3, and you'll be able to do a whole set of 5 and then multiple sets. So the other variation of this exercise is to not use a block and to take your legs so that they're straight up like you're standing on the ceiling. You have to have a certain amount of flexibility to be able to bring your legs up here, so that's not accessible for everyone. Knees can be bent and you could bring your legs up, or you could stick with the variation to place a block underneath. If this is accessible in your body, go ahead and take your legs straight up. And then from here, start to slowly lower your legs down towards the mat, and then use your core, your abdominal muscles, to pull yourself back to center. Slowly lower down and lift up. Slowly lower down, 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 and lift up. Go ahead and bring both feet down to the mat and let your knees drop in towards each other, letting your tummy muscles, your hard-working core soften and relax. It's hard work, and we just did quite a bit of abdominal work. So go ahead and take your legs out long on your mat or on your bed, wherever you happen to be. And let your arms come out towards the sides, palms facing up towards the sky. And close your eyes. And let your face soften and relax. Let your shoulders and arms relax. Let your torso and hips feel heavy. Let them sink into the mat. And let your legs and feet soften and relax. ahead and start to bring feeling back into your fingers and your toes. Go ahead and bend both knees and roll over onto one side, being mindful of your spine as you make your way up to a seated position. I'm going to go ahead and come through a tabletop over to the chair and come back through the hip hinge, lifting one leg up and then the other leg up. Then I'm going to make my way into a seated position. Go ahead and take just a moment to sit well, to roll your shoulders back once, to know that you did an excellent job of strengthening what will support your spine for the long term. If you found these exercises helpful, please share them with someone that you know and love. Talk soon.